Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to do a deep dive into something that's been all over the news lately. This whole retail apocalypse thing.
Yeah.
It feels like every day brings another headline about a major retailer shuttering stores.
Yeah.
And we've got a whole stack of articles here from CBS, Philadelphia, USA Today, Yahoo Finance, and Axios. And to be honest, they don't paint a very pretty picture.
Right.
But we're not just here to, wallow in the doom and gloom.
Yeah.
We want to understand, is this really the beginning of the end for department stores? Or is there, a path forward, a way for them to survive?
Yeah, it's definitely a really pivotal moment.
Okay.
For these retail giants, I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Department stores used to be the place to shop, right?
Right.
Like everything you could possibly want.
Yeah.
Clothing, appliances, everything under one roof.
Yeah.
But the retail landscape it's changed so dramatically.
It really has.
Right.
And we're seeing the effects of that with these closures, like Kohl's, for instance.
Yeah.
They're closing 27 stores nationwide by April 2025.
Wow.
And it's not just brick and mortar either. They're also shutting down that e-commerce fulfillment center in San Bernardino, California.
Yeah.
So they're putting a lot of faith in these remaining, 1,120 plus stores.
Right.
And this whole omni-channel approach. But does that really hold up?
Well, I mean, it's a strategy that a lot of retailers are, kind of pinning their hopes on, I think.
Okay.
This idea of blurring the lines between the online shopping experience and the physical store.
Right.
Like you were saying, Kohl's they're talking about using their stores to fulfill online orders.
Yeah.
So basically turning their stores into mini warehouses.
Right. So I could, order a sweater online and then just swing by my local Kohl's and pick it up.
Exactly.
Which sounds convenient in theory, right?
Right.
But what about the logistics? Does that mean longer wait times for the people who are actually shopping in the store?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And what about the employees?
Yeah.
They're now having to deal with both online and in-store demands.
Exactly. I mean, those are valid concerns.
Yeah.
It raises kind of a bigger question, I think.
Yeah.
Can these department stores really compete
Right.
with, the Amazons of the world when it comes to online fulfillment?
Right.
I mean, Amazon has built its entire infrastructure around speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
Right? So can traditional retailers really replicate that while also trying to maintain this positive in-store experience?
Especially when you factor in costs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at this article from Yahoo Finance, and it's talking about how retailers are dealing with rising inflation, supply chain disruptions, increased competition from online-only businesses. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a tough environment.
Yeah, it's a really tough environment.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And, it's not just Kohl's facing these challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, Macy's is making some pretty drastic moves, too.
Yeah, what's going on with Macy's?
Well, they're closing 66 stores this year.
Whoa.
With plans to shutter a total of 150 by 2026.
Wow.
And what's interesting is that that's actually an increase.
Oh, really?
From their previous plan.
Huh.
So, it suggests that things might be even worse than they initially thought.
Yeah, bold new chapter, huh?
Right.
It seems like their grand plan to focus on 350 quote-unquote go-forward stores and invest in this more high-end experience isn't really panning out the way they hoped.
It's a risky strategy for sure.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about who are they trying to appeal to?
Right.
Are they alienating their core customer base in pursuit of this younger, more affluent demographic?
Yeah.
That might prefer, smaller boutiques or online shopping anyway.
Right. And then what about the impact on all the employees losing their jobs?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, both Kohl's and Macy's mentioned severance packages,
right,
job placement assistance. But, I mean, that doesn't erase the anxiety for those families.
Of course not.
No,
and we have to think about the ripple effects on entire communities.
Yeah.
These stores are often anchors.
Right.
In shopping malls or downtown areas.
Yeah.
And when they close, it can lead to a decline in foot traffic.
Right.
Impacting neighboring businesses.
Yeah.
And even creating a sense of, blight.
Yeah.
And it can become this vicious cycle of economic decline.
Especially in areas that are already struggling. You mentioned retail deserts earlier.
Right.
Can you explain what those are and how they connect to this larger issue?
Yeah. So a retail desert is essentially an area that lacks access to fresh food and other kind of essential goods. And this often happens in low-income neighborhoods where, supermarkets and other major retailers have just pulled out.
Oh, wow.
Leaving residents with very few options besides, maybe convenience stores or dollar stores.
Right.
Which, offer limited selections.
Right.
Often unhealthy processed foods.
Yeah.
So the closure of department stores, even if they're not selling groceries.
Right.
Can really exacerbate this problem by further reducing the overall retail presence in a community.
So it's not just about losing a place to buy clothes or home goods.
Right.
It's about the potential for these closures to deepen these, existing inequality.
Exactly.
And create even greater challenges for communities that are already struggling.
It's a very real concern. And it brings us to, kind of a specific case that's generating a lot of discussion and concern.
Okay.
The closing of the Macy's in Center City, Philadelphia.
Right.
Now, this isn't just any store. This is the former Wanamaker building.
Right.
A historic landmark with a, really rich cultural legacy.
Okay, so this is where it gets personal for me.
Yeah.
I grew up in Philly. I have so many memories of visiting that building, especially during the holidays. I mean, it's not just a store. It's an institution.
Yeah.
And now everyone's freaking out about what's going to happen to, like, the Wanamaker Organ.
Right.
The Eagle statue, the holiday light show.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, the Wanamaker Organ it's a true marvel, one of the largest pipe organs in the world.
It's amazing.
The sound is just breathtaking.
Yeah.
And the Eagle statue, I mean, come on, it's a symbol of the city itself.
It really is.
To lose those treasures would be a significant blow to Philly's cultural heritage.
For sure. Thankfully, I read that the building has historical protections.
Okay.
Which hopefully means the organ and the eagle are safe.
Okay.
But the light show, I don't know.
Yeah, that's less certain.
Yeah. And then there's the bigger question of what's going to happen to the space itself.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to see the tension, I think, between preserving the past and embracing the future.
Right.
Developers are eager to capitalize on these prime locations.
Yeah.
But they also need to be sensitive to the historical and cultural significance of these buildings.
Right. It sounds like a really tricky balancing act.
It is.
And this isn't just a Philadelphia issue, is it?
No, not at all.
We're seeing the same thing play out all across the country.
Absolutely.
As these iconic department stores shut their doors.
It's a national phenomenon.
Yeah.
But it has these, really significant local implications.
Sure.
And it forces us to ask some tough questions.
Yeah.
About the future of our cities, the role of retail in our communities, and the importance of preserving, our shared history.
Right.
All really important things to think about.
Yeah, it feels like every city has a story like that. Like the Wanamaker building.
Yeah.
Places that were once like these bustling centers of commerce. Right. And now they're facing this really uncertain future. Mm-hmm. It makes you wonder, like, what's the map of American retail going to look like in a few years?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
I think the answer depends on a lot of things. Local demographics, economic conditions, even things like zoning regulations and public-private partnerships.
Right. Speaking of demographics, I'm curious about how these closures are impacting different types of communities. Like, we know that retail deserts are often found in low-income urban areas.
Right.
But what about suburban or rural communities that are also losing their department stores?
Yeah, it's definitely not just an urban issue. I mean, we're seeing a trend towards these, like, town center developments in the suburbs.
Right.
Which are essentially, like mixed-use complexes that try to replicate the vibrancy and walkability of urban downtowns.
Right.
But these developments often cater to, more affluent demographic.
Right.
So smaller towns and rural communities that don't have the same economic draw can get left behind.
It's like this whole retail ecosystem is shifting.
Yeah.
And some communities are just better positioned to adapt than others.
Right.
I'm looking at this list of Kohl's closures, and there's quite a few in suburban areas.
Okay.
Places like Aurora, Colorado, Hoover, Alabama. These are communities that were built around the mall.
Right.
And now that anchor store is gone.
Exactly. And it's not just the immediate job losses.
Right.
It's the ripple effect on, property values, tax revenue,
right.
The overall sense of community.
Yeah.
When a major retailer pulls out, it can create this sense of decline that's really hard to reverse.
It makes you wonder if there's a way to, like, break that cycle? Could these closing stores actually become catalysts for positive change in their communities?
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about the potential for reimagining these spaces.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. There's definitely potential there.
Well,
I think it's important to view these closures not as like an ending, but as a beginning.
okay.
You know, it's an opportunity to really rethink how we use these spaces.
Yeah.
And how they can best serve the needs of our communities.
I love that framing. Okay, so let's get specific.
Okay.
What are some examples of successful department store transformations?
Well, one interesting case study is the former Macy's in downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
It's now a mixed-use development called the Dayton's Project.
Okay.
And they've kept the historic facade of the building.
Okay.
But they've completely reimagined the interior. So there are, office spaces, a food hall, even a co-working space.
So it's a place that caters to different needs throughout the day.
Yes.
People can work there, grab a bite to eat,
Yep.
attend events. It's almost like a microcosm of the city itself.
Exactly. And it's attracting a really diverse mix of people,
Okay.
from young entrepreneurs to established businesses. It's become a destination,
Right.
not just a place to shop.
I'm also seeing a lot of examples of former retail spaces being turned into like educational or cultural centers.
Oh, yeah?
There's that old Sears in Chicago that's now a digital manufacturing lab and innovation center.
Right.
And I read about a Sears in Memphis that's being transformed into a charter school focused on science and technology.
Those are great examples
Yeah.
of how these spaces can be repurposed
Yeah.
to really address community needs.
Right.
And it's not just about providing a new service.
Right.
It's about creating a sense of ownership and pride.
Hmm.
When residents feel like they have a stake in these spaces, they're more likely to invest in their community's future.
It's interesting how these transformations can sometimes preserve elements of the past while also looking towards the future.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to that Philadelphia Macy's and all the concern about the fate of the Wanamaker Organ.
Right. It's a perfect example of how these issues of preservation and adaptation can really kind of collide.
Yeah.
The Wanamaker Organ is a symbol of a bygone era,
Right.
but it also holds, tremendous cultural value for the city of Philadelphia.
And people are passionate about saving it.
Yeah.
I was reading some of the comments online.
Oh, yeah?
And people are suggesting everything from fundraising campaigns to petitions to city council.
It's heartwarming to see that level of community engagement.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the power of these landmarks to connect us to our shared history.
It's not just about nostalgia, though.
Right.
These spaces can also become incubators for new ideas and businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember those like cavernous department store basements?
Uh-huh.
I'm picturing them transformed into artist studios, maker spaces, or even like vertical farms.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's about taking these underutilized spaces
Yeah.
and turning them into engines of creativity and innovation.
And let's not forget about those massive parking lots that often surround these stores.
Oh, right.
Those could become green spaces, farmers markets, even outdoor recreation areas.
Yeah.
We're talking about a huge opportunity to rethink how we use urban space.
Absolutely. It's about, shifting our mindset from car-centric to people-centric design.
Right.
Imagine a downtown area where you can walk or bike to work,
Yeah.
shop at local businesses,
Right.
enjoy, a vibrant cultural scene all within a few blocks.
That's a vision I can get behind.
Yeah.
It sounds like these closing department stores could actually be the catalyst for creating more vibrant, sustainable, and equitable communities.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's going to take a lot of collaboration, creativity, and commitment
It will.
from all stakeholders.
It's a complex challenge for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm optimistic that we can find solutions that benefit everyone.
Right.
And I think it starts with asking the right questions. What do our communities need?
Yeah.
What are our shared values? And how can we use these spaces to create a future that's both prosperous and inclusive?
It's kind of interesting how, this conversation has shifted from like lamenting the loss of these retail giants to brainstorming ways to turn them into something even better.
Right.
It's like we've moved from mourning to like possibility.
I think that's a key takeaway here.
Yeah.
It's not about clinging to the past.
Right.
But harnessing the present to create a more vibrant future.
Right.
And these closing department stores are like blank canvases.
Yeah.
Just waiting for us to paint a new vision for our communities.
So let's get those creative juices flowing.
Okay.
We've talked about some broad ideas, mixed-use developments, community centers, educational hubs.
Right.
But I want to get even more specific.
Okay.
Imagine you're given the keys to a vacant department store in your city.
Okay.
What would you do with it?
All right. I'm game.
Okay.
Let's say I've got a 5-story former Macy's right in the heart of downtown. First, I'd think about what the community is lacking.
Okay.
Maybe there's a shortage of affordable housing.
Right.
So I'd dedicate a couple floors to residential units.
Okay.
Partnering with, a nonprofit housing organization.
Right.
To make sure there's equitable access.
Love it. Mixed income housing right downtown.
Yeah.
That would bring so much vibrancy and diversity to the area.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about the ground floor?
Oh, yeah.
That prime retail space.
You got to put that to good use.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm picturing like a bustling indoor market featuring, local vendors, artisans, food producers. Imagine like fresh produce, baked goods, handcrafted jewelry, maybe even a few food stalls serving up, international cuisine.
Oh my gosh, my mouth is watering.
Right.
Okay, what about the upper floors?
Okay, so we've still got some square footage to play with.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really fun. I'm thinking a combination of co-working spaces,
okay,
maker spaces, studios for artists and musicians.
Okay.
So imagine a place where, entrepreneurs can launch their businesses.
Right.
Tinkerers can build their inventions.
Yeah.
Creatives can showcase their talents, all under one roof.
It's like a community hub for innovation and entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
And maybe we could even incorporate some educational components.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Partner with the local community college to offer classes or workshops.
Yeah.
Create a space for after-school programs,
Yeah.
youth mentorship, that kind of thing.
I'm with you, and let's not forget about those rooftop spaces.
Oh, yeah, the roof.
Imagine rooftop gardens providing, fresh produce for the market downstairs.
Right.
Or maybe even a solar array generating clean energy for the building.
Okay, now you're talking.
Right.
We've got affordable housing,
Okay.
fresh food, entrepreneurial opportunities, education, sustainability.
All
happening in this one reimagined space.
Right.
But how do we make sure that it benefits everyone in the community?
Right. That's a really important point. That's where, community ownership models come in.
Okay.
We could create like a cooperative structure.
Okay.
Where, residents, business owners, community members, they all have a voice.
Right.
In how the space is managed and operated.
That's a great idea.
Right. It ensures that the space remains, accountable to the needs and desires of the people it serves.
Right. And it creates that sense of shared ownership and responsibility.
Exactly.
We're not just tenants per consumers. We're investors in the future of our community.
I think that's the most powerful aspect of this whole reimagining process.
Yeah.
It's about more than just bricks and mortar.
Right.
It's about building a sense of belonging, fostering connection, creating a place where everyone feels welcome and valued.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
So we've journeyed from the depths of the retail apocalypse to the heights of possibility.
We have.
And if there's one thing I want our listeners to take away from this deep dive, it's that the future is not predetermined. We have the power to shape it.
Absolutely. And that power lies in our collective imagination.
Yeah.
Our willingness to challenge the status quo.
Right.
And our commitment to building communities that are both vibrant and equitable.
This has been a really inspiring conversation.
Yes.
And as always, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What are your hopes and dreams for these vacant spaces in your community?
Let us know.
Let's keep this dialogue going and work together to create a future where everyone can thrive.
Absolutely.